Okay, so here we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is part one of our two-part open house series for women who are interested in the Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program. So this is a big commitment in many ways to join this program. And so it's really nice. What I've found over the years is for us to have some sort of connect, for you to really feel into me and the teachings and what's in store for you. So it's really a great service for me to get to show up in this space with all of you. How this call is going to go, I try to be really good with time, but when it comes to things that I love talking about and being in circle with other women, sometimes time disappears for me. So my intention is that this is a 90-minute call or less, and we'll see what the mystery has to share. So I have some ideas of what I want to talk to you about and why this call is important. And there's also just a living, breathing energy that's here of what wants to come through, what's important for each of you to hear and to share. So we'll start with a grounding, and then I'll share a little bit about me and why these calls are broken up into two parts in the way that I've envisioned and planned them. And then we'll dive into some content. Well, we're going to do a little practice actually, and then some content, and then we'll open it up for questions about the practitioner training program, and then we'll complete. So I'm just lighting some Palo Santo and some sage over here, and I truly, truly believe and have experienced that with technology, we can create an experience where we really all are in the same space. And we really get to feel one another and even get to feel the cleansing and the purification and the upliftment that comes from these sacred plants through our screens. So I'm just going to begin. I'm just going to begin with just kind of bringing the Palo Santo through to each of your faces and energies here. And if you wanted to begin to close your eyes, you can do so. Just really giving yourself this moment out of your day or your evening. Feeling the way that these plants arrive so effortlessly and so generously when we ask them. Feeling the gift of the exhale that comes from cleansing and purifying. With your eyes closed, just really beginning to find your breath. Your breath being the ancient keeper that moves throughout your body, that has been with you since the beginning and will be with you at the very end. Your breath that animates all parts of who you are, that brings expression into your world. And so letting your breath find you and you find your breath, and beginning this beautiful dance of sinking into each other's embrace. Leaving behind anything that doesn't need to be here in this time for us together. Just witnessing the places in your own body that just truly rejoice at the softening and relaxation that happens through the breath, and the parts of you that also are a little contracted or that are holding in some way. We presence all that's here for you. Everything that is here for you gives a roadmap, gives us a guide for how to walk on your emotional healing path. So everything, all of you is welcome. Your feelings, your thoughts, everything's welcome without judgment in this moment. What a relief that is. So feeling your breath just expand into deeper parts of your body, opening, peeling, embracing. As you sit here, experiencing the familiarity of your own internal terrain, let's presence all the women who are here live on the call and all who will be listening to the recording. All these women here, to the right of you, to the left of you, creating this gorgeous circle, this womb-like sacred geometry. Each of us called here from our soul, from Gaia. Each of us identifying as either a medicine woman or a birth keeper or a mama or a healer or a priestess or a shaman or any other magical, mysterious, or alchemical ways that you think or feel about who you are. This is the space for you. We need you so deeply right now. We call forth the entire realm of nature, all the beings that live with us on this planet. We call forth the flowers and the trees and the plant spirits that we work with so deeply and so profoundly. We ask you to come and be part of our time together, holding this container for us, strengthening us and clarifying each woman here to walk her sacred path. And so as you continue to breathe, really feeling the presence of nature, feeling the presence of the plants and the trees, and all the wisdom that animates, that is alive, all the brilliant, brilliant intelligence of this planet that we get to partner with. Oh, so beautiful. We ask that all that is shared today, all that is spoken, and all that you receive and remember and rejoice in is in the highest good for you, for all of us together, and for all beings everywhere in this world and all other worlds. And so mote it be. Filling yourself up with a couple more deep breaths. Feeling the guardianship and the allyship that's here for you with your sisters, with Mother Earth, with the web of life. feeling all the potentiality that you hold. And so when you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back into this space. Welcome. That felt so good. I feel like the entire realm of nature just surrounding this entire circle. How extraordinary. So I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I'm actually not going to take too long because I would imagine that most of you somehow got here through me. So my name is Amaya, and I run the Woman Rising School for Sacred Feminine Mysteries. And part of our mystery school is this huge, vast realm of earth wisdom and plant-based medicine. And the Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program is part of this. This is, if you know me, so I tear and cry very easily. And when I talk about flower essences and when I talk about, certain ways in which they serve us, you'll see me wiping away tears because it's so profound, and there's part of this that's incredibly hard for me to share in language. And so this is our 5th year of our practitioner training program, and I am just very, very proud of this program. There is nothing like this out there. And so much of what I share with flower essences is really, truly through my own walk, doing my own journey work and shadow work, which is hard and beautiful. And I really want to presence that because I don't talk about emotional healing in the sense of it's all fantastic. The result and what you experience on the other side is so breathtaking. And there's moments on the path that are joyous and uplifting and wow, this is amazing and easeful, especially with flower essences. And there's also times where you're challenged because the idea is to work with your pain. And the idea is to work with your wounds and your trauma. And so, that's why we're here. So my great love is supporting women to know thyself. Know yourself in the most deep, authentic way possible of coming back into your own essence. And so sometimes that sounds esoteric, and what does that mean? But truthfully, it's so about just peeling away the conditionings from family, from society, and finding out you, really you, your blueprint, your essence. So all the things that I live and love are taught in the mystery school. And, I actually never had an intention to birth a school. It literally came alive through the requests of all the women who have come through our temple gates saying, I want more of this and I want more of this. And so we do shamanic trainings, and we do moon priestess trainings, and we do an Avalon priestess path training and flower essences. And so it's really all, I just listen to what you ask for, and if it resonates with me as well, then here it is. So I'm so honored and delighted to have you all here. And again, for those who will be listening live, you're here with us. I mean, who listening to the recording, you're here with us live. We feel you. I feel the energetics of all these other women kind of in this space that we can't see. So there are 2 parts to this series. And I want to explain it a little bit more because they're both very important aspects of flower essence and the practitioner training, and truly, for me, for everyone. So this first call is about how we navigate me. You know, how you really get to fill yourself up, how you get to live your inner rings. And we're going to talk about that more in a moment. So we're going to be talking about ways that you can strengthen and clarify your self-worth, your confidence, releasing shame and guilt. We're going to talk about trauma and imprinting and why it's so important to work with trauma. We're going to talk about creating really deep relationship with nature and how to do this. Because when you live in communion with nature, when you understand that, I keep looking at this oak tree right outside my window. When you understand that they are living, breathing beings just like you are, your essence arrives even more and your embodiment takes place even more. So I really see all of that as part of working on the me. And when we work on me, there's an infinite well that we're able to give to we. So many of us are called first to this path because we have our own healing that we need to do, right? We are stuck, we are suffering, we are challenged, and we find this path because we say, okay, I want more. I need more, and this is not how I want to feel in my life, and this is not how I want my life to look. And so we find ourselves here, and then when we walk this path for a while, we realize, wait a minute, the more whole I become, the more I see what's possible for everyone and for this world. And so tomorrow's call is going to be focused on that. So tomorrow's call is at 2:30 p.m. PST, and it's all going to be on how we impact the we. And really, I see flower essences as being a pivotal part of all of our sacred activism. So how do we live in right livelihood? And I've been talking to so many of you on the phone. How do I create work that's so deeply fulfilling and yet also impacts and changes and transforms the lives of others? Like, that's what we want. And how do we create commerce for ourselves that is abundant and beautiful and not has a different resonance than what we see in the world around us with money? And how do we do all of this as global citizens? So tomorrow is really about how do we take all of this healing we're doing inside and bring it out? And we're going to talk about earth-based leadership, and because I feel like that's the only way we can lead at this point in a sustainable, thriving way. So what I would love for you to do, if possible, if you have a piece of paper right next to you, or you can go and grab a piece of paper, and if not, you can kind of do this visually in your head. I have a dear friend that I learned something similar from. Her name's Lindsay Para, and she talks about your rings, your inner rings and your outer rings. And so we're going to do a little practice for you right now to kind of gauge what's present for you, because each of us on the call, there's for sure overlap for all of us on our desires and our longings, and yet there's also a unique path that you're each walking. So what I would love for you to do is, on your piece of paper, is just draw, and you can do this any size you want. So you're just going to draw a circle. I'm using a pencil, so I don't even know if you can see. You're just going to draw a circle. It can be little, doesn't have to be very big. And then around that circle, you're going to draw, let's say for right now, you're going to draw 3 more circles around it. So you'll have 4 circles. Yeah, it's pretty easy, but you can't see mine. So 1 circle in the center, and then, 3 circles around it. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I have a pen. This will be easier. almost like a bullseye, right? Okay, so that center circle, you can write you. You know, you can write your name, you can write my essence, you can write my center, you can write core. That part of you is like your deepest center, okay? Now you can have more than 3 rings around this, and most of us will have 3 to 8 rings, but I just want to start here today, and tomorrow we can go a little bit deeper. So I want you to think about in your life right now, what these outer rings are. So what I mean by that is how this part of you in the center gets filled, right? And it's really important that you're present to what's the closest to your center, right? So for some of us, I'll give you some examples so you understand what I'm saying, and then I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about this for yourself. These can be anything, and they'll change from time to time. Some of them will always stay the same. So this may be, especially if you're a mom or you have a family, this may be your family or your children. And so these rings, there's a synergistic aspect, is that they fill you and they're also priority to you. Like if you think about your life and your day, where's the most important thing for you to focus that fills you? Okay, so this could be your family, this could be your work, this could be your self-care, this could be your emotional healing around your self-worth. So this could be time in nature. So I want you to just look at your 3 rings that you drew around your center and write in what each of those rings are for you. So again, these are ways that your essence gets strengthened and what's a priority for you in your life. Your home, your family, travel. Okay. So again, this is actually like a really beautiful practice that you can do, and it really helps for you to begin to calibrate and organize your life around what's really most important and what feeds you and fills you. Because, as we all know, it's so easy to focus on things that don't feed us and don't fill us and aren't priorities. And so when you look at your life and you look at your day, you really need to make sure, okay, if this is family, how much time have I cultivated for my family today? Oh my gosh, I don't think I've spent one moment with my child. Okay, so when you kind of become askew from your rings and what's important to you, your center gets wobbly, right? So today, we're going to kind of use this over the next 2 days. Today, I want to really focus on this center, on you. As you all know, the stronger you are in every part of your own inner realms, everything in your life reflects that, right? So when we hold pain, trauma, wounds, they become our beliefs. They become the way that we see the world. They become what we believe is possible for us, right? And so when you think about your life, I'm sure you all know these moments or these relationships that you have that are a struggle, that are challenging, that have a lot of imprints in them that are based in hurt. And the thing about all of this for all of us, unless you were raised in a super conscious home as a child, which most of us were not, we didn't process through these hurts that most of the time occurred in our childhood. And so we grow up and they become part of who we are, right? We don't even think about, we don't even think about it. The wounds happen, we're children, we put them away, and then we go through our life and they become part of who we are. And so we're making decisions as a 25-year-old, as a 45-year-old, as a 70-year-old, that are from these imprints of a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old. And we look at our lives and we say, I don't understand. Like, why haven't I attracted that partner? Why do I always find partners who are exactly like my father? Or why am I not making money? Or why do I have such a terrible sense of my own self-worth and who I am? Why do I think horrible thoughts about my body? All of this is tracked back to our childhood, to our relationships with our parents, to relationships with caretakers and guardians. And it's really extraordinary to see that we're playing out things that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, and they're affecting our life in 2018. Flower essences, I mean, even the word, right? So it's the essence of a flower. And I want to kind of take a pause from that train of thought for a moment, because some of you know what flower essences are, some of you don't. So let's just pause my thought. Flower essences, first and foremost, they're different than essential oils. And oftentimes people get confused because of that word essential and this essence. So flower essences is an umbrella term. There's tree essences, there's crystal and gem essences, there's elemental essences. You can collect the essence of any living, breathing entity. And so the essence, it's the essence of a flower, the essence of a tree. And when you ingest that internally, it meets your essence and your core. So anything that's not of your essence, which is all that trauma, all those beliefs that are just based in complete falsity and illusion, all the pain, that's not who you are. This is the season of the maiden in the Celtic tradition that I follow as a priestess. And the maiden is the archetype that she's literally birthed with you, right? So when you're born, the maiden comes in. And the maiden holds your soul's blueprint, which is your essence. So what flower essences do is they start to move through the imprint. What a child saw, felt, interpreted, and was never processed becomes the imprint. But you have a blueprint that is completely soul-oriented and soul-anchored. And so flower essences get you back to that place. Sometimes they do this in this really easeful, subtle way. You know, there's some essences I give to clients, especially there's a great flower essence, motherwort. And motherwort is for creating healthy and appropriate boundaries. Every woman here needs that, for sure. Every woman. I've never in 17 years not given it to a client. We all need to create boundaries, and there's so many reasons why women have a hard time creating boundaries. So when you take motherwort, there is this real ease. Like all of a sudden, I've heard this through hundreds of students and clients. I took motherwort and I was so scared about making a boundary with my mom or with my partner or with my child or my coworker, and I just did it. It was like not a thing. So sometimes flower essences work in these ways where these patterns that you've been holding on to just shift. And sometimes the essences invite you so deeply to feel into the pain so that you, as an adult, get to make a conscious choice if you want to hold on to that pain or not. If you want that pain to become your, I call it your come from, the place that you make your decisions, the place that you live, and so sometimes we really have to feel everything. We've grown up in a world that praises us for not feeling. It's like avoid pain at all costs. Red alert, red alert, red alert. Avoid pain. And Flower Essences actually says the path to your healing is feeling. And yeah, when I work with women who are like, I am taking this formula and I was on the floor crying last night, I go like, yes. Because when something's moving in your body, it may be incredibly uncomfortable, but we've touched into something that's creating a change. And that's what you're calling forth. You're calling forth to change and to release these parts of you that are not your soul's blueprint. And so this is really your journey. We're each on a healing journey, and we're each at different phases of our journey. And to me, it's one of the most important things that we can do. The more free we are, the more of ourselves, as I said before, we have to give to others. There's so much happening on this planet right now where we need to be advocates and we need to be agents of change. And the only way we can do that, especially for many of us having, being part of this epidemic of unworthiness, right? We go like, well, who am I to be a voice for change? Or who am I to go to this town hall meeting and speak? Or who am I? We must. And so these places where you feel a lack of confidence or you feel a lack of self-worth, these places have to be not just for your own life and for the beauty of your own relationships and, really cultivating and living your dreams, but so you can be an agent of change. It's all just so interwoven. And the more we understand that, the more we see how we can be servants in devotion, right? When we are just solely focused on the me, that's great for a while and important, and then it has to kind of be broadcast out into the world. I'm just feeling so much fear and heaviness released during my dream time. Yeah. So there's, thank you, Rose Hart. There's so much we're all releasing in the conscious waking world and in our dream time world. And, I always tell women, when you're having those kinds of dreams in your dream, you just say thank you and gratitude, because it's nice to be doing some of your shadow work and deep emotional work in the dreams. There's an ease to releasing things in that space. We just entered, we just had this great first new moon of the new astrological year in Aries, and Aries being the warrior, and Aries being all about me. I need to take care of me so I can bring my passion out into the world and change this world. And Mercury just went direct. And so we're actually having, I've been feeling almost like the veils of this winter and the underworld and all that's been going on collectively and personally. It's like there's finally a way we can open. So we're each having this moment where our path is opening up more personally and then professionally with our work, with everything. Our dreams are opening up right now. So it's a pretty beautiful, beautiful time after the winter. Okay, so let me go back to my schedule and plan for today. Okay, so about your center, about that center point, I want you to be really thinking, for sure in this call and over the next day, and then again, we'll be going further in tomorrow, about this center point of you. And what so the outer rings are all the things that support you, right? But this center is all that you hold and all that you're self-responsible for and all that you can do to come back into that place of your truth. So just taking a moment, maybe you can write this down sort of on the side of things that you're really going through right now, things that you feel challenged by. As I was saying, there is a global epidemic of unworthiness amongst women, and it plays out in all different ways. Every one of us has moments where the not good enough comes up in some way. I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, and then it translates into other things. So if I'm not pretty enough, I may not attract a partner. I may not attract clients. If I'm not smart enough, I may not attract a partner or clients. If I'm not funny enough, I may not have friends. If I'm not wealthy enough, I may not offer, it's wild what happens in our minds, all the not good enoughs. And so just writing down on this side, like what you're working through, not good enoughs. Maybe you're working through a really painful relationship with a family member or a beloved that you know is really affecting you finding your center. So just taking a moment to kind of track for yourself what's most present for you that's challenging, you standing so strongly in your embodied essence. And I use embodied really of so many of us aren't embodied, and that's because of trauma and hurts and wounds that we've had where our soul goes, you know what, it's not really that safe to be here. I'm gonna, or those of us who walk a spiritual path, we go, okay, you know what, I'm like going to totally stay in the upper ethers and connect to the great mystery and the cosmos and, other galaxies, and all of that's great, but you're a human being and you have to incarnate and embody, take up space in this human body. The capacity then that happens for you to connect with the upper realms as a spiritual being becomes even more enhanced and extraordinary. We want you to be embodied. And when you embody, you have to look at trauma and you have to look at wounds. And without a doubt, and this is not to say that I have tried every healing modality out there, because I haven't, flower essences help you embody. They help your soul say, okay, I can come here. I can fully be here. When I was 24, I was 24, I went to my very first flower essence practitioner program. So that was just about 17 years ago. And I had no idea that I was not in my body. Like, none. I was just like, oh, I'm 24 and I'm trying to find my space in the world and who am I? And I was just like, oh yeah, I like connecting to fairies and talking. I was just like all up here. And I remember in the first 3 months of taking flower essences, like feeling like this great gentle invitation. I don't even know if I knew what was happening, where I was landing in my body. And it started to change everything. It started to change how I was showing up in the world, how I was relating to people, how I was relating to money, how I was relating to my spiritual path. Like, when we come into our bodies, our human experience starts to clarify, deepen, and get more exciting. Any favorite stores to buy motherwort? So motherwort's part of our new flower essence line, so you can get it from us in a couple months. Yeah, it's definitely one you will all want to have in your apothecary. So just looking at this list of what you're working on, what's present, and how do I want to do this right now? I'd love to maybe open the line for a couple of you to share what's present, and we can talk about flower essences to support where you're at. Because I don't want to just make assumptions. I mean, I kind of know from doing this work for so long what's alive for most women, but I'd love if you want to share, one thing that's on that side list, because it's probably something somebody else is dealing with here. And then we can talk about some flower essences that would be supportive for you in that. So if you want to unmute yourself, there's a little microphone in the bottom left corner of your screen. And if you can't speak for some reason, you can type your share on the side in the chat, and I'll follow that. We'll just take like 2 or 3 shares because I want to make sure we get into other aspects. So I know this is revealing. I know I'm asking you to kind of, share something deep and big, and just so you know, we really all have this.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Really, really loud behind you.
Yeah, I might write to then. It's better.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Julie. Okay, so Leslie's writing fertility. So this is a great, thank you for bringing this up. So I've kind of been focusing on like, the emotional piece, the emotional piece. We know that they're all connected, right? So what happens to our physical body is because of the emotional wounds and the imprints that have been left unprocessed and kind of exiled from our consciousness, like wanting them to disappear. And fertility, so my work used to really focus just on women's physical health issues. And what I have found is that anything like fertility to painful cycles, heavy bleeding, fibroids, endometriosis. There's an epidemic of women's physical health issues, reproductive issues. 98% of the time, there's a feminine wounding or trauma that's sitting in that part of your body, and it's being expressed. It's like, our symptoms get to be, when we have physical symptoms, especially fertility issues, when you're wanting to become a mama, there's so much pain and angst that's full of this, physical health symptom, and it's also the body communicating. So the thing with flower essences, specifically when we're talking about physical symptoms, is that there isn't one cure, right? So we could talk about, like I was saying before, like motherwort is great for boundaries. But when we're talking about physical health symptoms, every woman has a unique story, right? So some women have been raped and violated and assaulted, and that's why they have the feminine reproductive issues. Sometimes it's actually more subtle. Sometimes there's ways in which your self-worth was squashed as a child, or you had a deep betrayal of trust, and it's manifesting as that. So it's hard for me in this specific example to say, here's the specific essences, but absolutely flower essences can support physical health symptoms. And we go through that in the practitioner program a little. We have a level 2 training that goes more deeply into that if that's something you're called to do. Yeah, I'll be starting my coaching practice in the next couple months. I feel like I'm not qualified because I'm just starting out. So Oh, yes. Part of our unworthiness and deservability. I have heard this spoken, I mean, I can't even tell you, many, 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 many times. So here's the thing. I will never be able to convince you that you're absolutely ready. What I know will happen is that the flower essences will support your ability to believe in yourself, to reclaim your self-worth and confidence, and to take a leap. Being a healer, being a facilitator of healer, being a coach, being, whatever term you use, is a big edge. It's a big edge for many different reasons. You're absolutely qualified. You've probably invested in your education. You've probably done deep work on yourself, and you have the skill set to help people. That's not to say you may not still have your own healing to do. We all have our own healing. We're on the journey of life. I always tell the women in the practitioner program, if you're 2 steps ahead of someone, you can help them bridge the gap of where they are and where they want to be. So flower essences like buttercup to help your self-worth, Missouri primrose with your self-worth. And again, I'm kind of just touching into the surface, but there's always a reason why we feel that way, right? Usually when we don't believe in ourselves, there's a story from our childhood that a parent abandoned you, or a parent wasn't available, or there was an alcoholic parent. There's some story. So the thing with flower essences is, yes, we can absolutely meet you where you're at, but if we can go deeper, if we can follow the thread of what's underneath and give you a flower essence that touches into that wound, it's like everything melts and you come into that center. So buttercup, Missouri primrose, cedar for feeling really safe, borage for courage. These are all meeting you where you're at without knowing your story. Rose heart, deep, deep unworthiness. So yeah, this is kind of circling back with Kim's question. Buttercup, Missouri primrose. But when there's that deep, when you're using those words, the deep unworthiness, we have to touch into what happened for you. And this is the beauty of becoming a practitioner. So in the Flower Essence Practitioner Program, you get one-on-one sessions. This is like on call, like you don't hear about this in programs. And I've had so many business coaches say to me before, like, you should really take this out. It's like it takes a lot of your money for each of these women to have sessions. I can't. Unless you do your own work, you can never ask anyone else to do their own inner work. And the more you understand in your own embodied experience how the flowers shift your life, you won't be as good of a practitioner. And I want you all to be amazing, incredible practitioners where people are getting life-changing results. So in your one-on-one sessions in this program, you'll be guided into the story where that pain and that deep, deep unworthiness arises, and you'll start to notice the shift in your self-worth, your ability to receive on every level. Your deservability will strengthen. Competition with other women for the attention of my partner, not feeling good enough to be a friend of this woman, feeling rejection. Yeah, thank you, Julie. So again, there's probably a story. There's probably some betrayal from before this moment, right? And so we go in the practitioner training of all the different flowers that work with betrayal, because women hold so much of that. And when we've had betrayals, our sense of who we are is completely diminished. And usually when you feel this, there's also been some level of abandonment at some point in your childhood. Does that I'm asking you more because I can see you. Okay, so you're shaking your head. Yes, yeah. So like black currant is an amazing flower essence when there has been that level of abandonment, and we can start to like, there's a way when you feel jealous or that you don't feel, how do I say this? It's like there's a part of you that hasn't quite believed that you are a priority, and more than that, that like because you're alive, you're important. That's a really big one for women. So yes, there's so many examples that you're all giving me, and unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all, but I've literally never met an issue that flower essences can't help. Never. I mean, never. So everything that you're feeling, flowers, trees, elemental essences, will radically support you. So let's see. I want to talk a little bit more about trauma, and then I'm going to talk about the Flower Essence program, and we can have questions. And then I want to talk about some practices for you to connect more deeply to plants. So I've talked a lot about wounds and hurts and imprints. And all of this is part of this whole trauma experience. Now, some people have like a jarring reaction to the word trauma, right? You look at your life and you're like, I don't know if I've had trauma, because in our world, we think of trauma as, there's a spectrum of trauma, and we kind of think of it more as like extreme, overt women who have been assaulted, raped, abused verbally, physically. And yet we've all experienced some level of trauma. And trauma is just any time that your body felt or perceived an unsafe situation. And there's a whole extraordinary chemical process that happens in the body to keep you safe. And trauma holds an energetic frequency in the body, right? So if you think of shock, if you've ever gone into shock, like you've just heard a loved one passed away, or you were in a car accident, there's a way in which your whole system goes into freeze. And that's what happens when trauma sits in your body. So unless you've had a traumatic experience and you've really done work around it and released it from your body, we're still running currents of trauma in this moment. And so what that means is part of your being is frozen in that time. You don't have the full access to all parts of who you are. And that's why you feel stuck and stagnant and like, why am I repeating the same experiences? Or why do I always feel so sensitive and hurt? It's the trauma frequency. That blueprint that I was talking about before, that's a super, super high frequency. And that holds the frequency of your destiny, why you're here at this time. And then trauma comes in and kind of goes like, nope. And this frequency of your blueprint gets dampened and it gets blobby, and you can't move forward in your life in the same way. And there's a whole way that we work with the nervous system and the soul with flower essences to really begin to move trauma out of the body. And so this flower essence program focuses a lot on trauma. So I love the clinical aspect of emotional healing and trauma. It's like that thing that juices me up, that turns me on, that I get really excited about. And the way that I teach about flower essences is that, there's some people who talk about flower essences, or we think about flower essences, and it's kind of this like airy fairy new agey modality. But actually there's a very clinical embodied way to use flower essences so that we're making radical shift with trauma. And so when that trauma frequency starts to release, you come back into that blueprint frequency where you get to live your destiny. So we go through that. Actually, there's 2 or 3 modules in the Flower Essence program that relates to trauma. And it's a very important thing to understand for your own healing, for sure, so that you can pay attention and track like why you relate to somebody else in that moment through usually a triggered reaction. It's just from your trauma. And so you understand yourself better by understanding trauma. And of course, you understand how to hold space for your clients. So as I said, there's so much. There's so much I could talk about. I'd love to talk about the Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program. This, we offer it once a year, and registration closes in a week from tomorrow. We're just almost about half filled. So, this is the time. This is like this next week is like, I know that a lot of you are circling around and I know that you're thinking about it. And so this is the moment. And I want to talk a little bit more about what you learn, about what you get, but I'd also really love to see if any of you have questions, right? So I know some of you are here. I've already talked to some of you. You're registered. I don't know if some of you who are here live are thinking about it, but I'd rather, answer questions that are present and alive for you than just kind of talking. So if you could either write in the chat box questions that you have, thinking about stepping into this container, or unmute yourself, that would be great. Anyone here thinking about joining us? Maybe that's a better question. Kinga, is that how you pronounce your name? So are you just here to just feel and, okay. Any questions that you have? Okay, well, if they arise, let me know. Anyone else here who's, like, I see a couple names because there's only a few of us where I can see our faces, but I see a couple names of women who I know were in contact with us last year. And, I know this is such a big decision. I totally get it. And I honor that so deeply. This is, you're coming into communion with yourself, with Gaia, and then becoming a practitioner for others. Like, this is huge. And what I always tell people is like, it's kind of beautiful that this is like around, we can kind of anchor this in our minds of the new moon in April. When you track who you are on September 18th, when our program ends, you are going to be so different. Not only like this enthusiasm of like, oh my gosh, I want to work with every single person because people are suffering and I have this tool set and medicine basket now to help people. But you yourself, by going through the curriculum and by doing your own inner work with the one-on-one sessions and by attuning and connecting to the plans, will be different. Like every single woman says the same thing when they complete the program. And it's not about me. So, like, I'm not saying this at all. I know that. I know it's not about me. It's the flowers, it's the trees, and it's the deep courage of each woman to be courageous, to look at the shadows and resurrect into the light. So Yes, I do want to, just need to work out a few things. Okay, Maria, great. Hold on, I think there's one above it. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that's how we met. Yeah, I already feel so much change. Yeah, so when we work just one-on-one with flower essences, we already feel change. And then when you actually work with a practitioner who's skilled at the art of inquiry and getting you to follow that thread of what's underneath, and then the formula is made to touch into that root, that's when, yeah, that's when the magic comes. Michaela, you're thinking about it. You love everything you're reading about the program. I feel very drawn to join, but I'm already a certified flower essence practitioner. Yeah, so this is so interesting. A couple years ago, we had the same, there was another woman who's now one of our practitioners. And so you may want to reach out to her. Her name's Jo Bell Cummings. And she was a certified flower essence practitioner. And I remember when she applied, I thought, well, I don't know. Like, does she need this? You know, she's already doing it. And I remember when we spoke, she just said she felt like there was just something. There was something more that she was going to get, a different system, a different understanding. And I don't know who you're certified through, so I don't know what you've been taught. And yeah, and so she enrolled, and it's only enhanced what she does. So if you want, Michaela, and now she's one of our practitioners. So if you want, I'm happy to connect the two of you, and you can kind of talk to her about that space that you're in, and maybe get her feedback, because all of these questions are best, you know, to explore with somebody who is in a similar situation. Oh, you got certified with David Otten. Okay, great. I love him. So Miranda, I would love to, but not sure I have the finances this year. I've been studying herbal medicine, so it's inspiring to me to make flower essences. Yeah. So yeah, herbal medicine is the way that I got into all of this, and I love herbal medicine, and flower essences go into the place for me that's so rich. Like it's just my like, that's what I want more of. I want to know about the emotional wound and the emotional trauma and come from that place. So let's talk about the financial piece, because this is a question we get from a lot of women, and it's usually like every woman says, I feel the call, I want to do it, yes, 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 and then the financial piece. Okay, so let's talk about that for a moment, because it's real and it's true, and I want to support the release of like the shame or the stigma that comes around talking about money. You know, like we grew up in a world where it's like, you don't talk about money. I don't understand that. Like it's real. We talk about other things, so let's talk about money. So there's so much that you get in this program, and it's why it costs what it costs, right? So you get obviously all the curriculum that you see on the webpage, which is very extensive, and you get 70 flower essences. So you start your own apothecary. You don't have to buy them after, and then you get the 3 one-on-one sessions. So there's quite a bit that you receive. What I have found is that most people really are grateful to have a lengthy payment plan. So the tuition is $3,800, and then there's an optional retreat. So if you come to the retreat, it's another $1,000. The retreat's totally taken care of. You just need to get here. So we have this beautiful house in the hills here in Ojai, and it's organic catered food, and it's just a delight. It's 3.5 days. And so what we offer is for everyone. You can pay in full, you can pay over 4 months, or you can pay over 8 months. Generally, women choose the 8 months, that seems to work the best for most people. And so that takes you from April through November. So November would be your last payment. And we offer 3 to 4 partial scholarships per year. We have about 1, maybe 2 left for this year. So if you're like, okay, I can do this program and I can do it in 8 months and I feel really good about that, great. If you're like, oh God, that might be really hard for me, reach out in your application and write that. So I am so passionate about each of you who hear the call to be part of this program. Like I'm like an absolute yes. I'm feeling all of you coming into this field every day. Like I feel the nervousness, I feel the excitement, I feel the like, oh, each of you taking your spot in this circle. And I'm not interested in creating financial stress or tension for anyone. It takes away from you being in the program. So there's divine timing to it all. I know that so much opens when you take this program. And I know that money is part of the opening and abundance is part of the opening. And part of what I teach you in this training is how to build a business, which most herbal flower essence programs do not teach. I want you to be successful. So I know that money is possible and money comes in. And I also know that you're all highly resourceful when you want something. And I speak about that from example. I mean, in my 20s, I took so many trainings that I didn't have money for. And I figured it out because I had to. And then there's moments where it's like, okay, this is all I can actually afford. And that's where the partial scholarships are available. So the partial scholarship takes $1,000 off of the tuition. So it becomes $2,800 instead of $3,800. And then it's the same thing. You can pay in full, 4 months or 8 months. Anything else that you want me to present about the financial piece? Because I know that that's usually the thing. One of the things I've been thinking about lately is maybe creating a supplemental audio between when registration ends. So registration ends April 26th, and we start the program on the new moon of May 15th. And so in that 2-week time, I've been thinking about creating an audio for you on flower essences for limiting beliefs around finances and abundance. And I mean, we go through that in the program as well every week. There's an unraveling of everything, but I may offer that because I'm hearing that, more and more from women. So just know that you're going to get really taken care of in this program. Really. We don't take that many women. It's just, it's another thing, like I'm just not interested in having this program be more like between 25 and 30 is what we take. And more than that feels people will get lost. You won't get your needs met. It doesn't resonate for me. So you get a lot of support in this program, especially when you ask for it. Besides the one-on-one sessions, which are just amazing. So, oh, thank you, Miranda. Thanks for the graceful breakdown. Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't ever really feel like I'm selling this program. I think that's where we feel a little like, yeah, I have to talk about all this because I just know the value of the flowers. And I've just seen, again, this is our 5th year. So I've seen 4 years of women being journeyed through this program. And I know what this program offers. So for those of you that feel the call, we bless you into this space and we really welcome you, and fill out that application soon because I want you to get a spot if you want a spot. Does anyone want, yeah, you feel the call of the flowers your whole life. Yeah. Oh, that gives me like, yeah. So, that makes me really emotional for a lot of different reasons. Not everyone hears the call from flowers. It's a very unique call. It's really special to be called by the flowers. And that doesn't mean that you have to become a flower essence practitioner, but I truly want to presence that you are unique for being called by the flowers. And when you hear the call, I really invite you to be courageous enough to listen. So if you're tiptoeing, specifically around this program and should I, shouldn't I, ask the flowers. Ask them. Ask them what your service and what your mission is in hearing their call. Your mind is going to make up 5,000 different reasons you're called. But ask nature. It's so profound to be in deep partnership with flowers. So let's kind of journey into that aspect as the final part of this call. And if you want any more support, there is so much information on that webpage about all the modules and the breakdown, and really read through it. Really read, feel your body. Because I've talked to a couple women, it's so funny, who are like, oh my gosh, I didn't see any of that on the webpage, and I didn't read that. And there's actually a lot of information there about all that you receive and all the modules. And honestly, it all comes down to the just feeling you have in your body. So you're welcome for offering this opportunity. Okay, see you later, Becca. So much love. Thanks for joining us. So let's kind of transition into this final part of our call. And again, tomorrow will be part 2 of how do we take this center point and then enact it into our outer rings. How to be the change we wish to see in the world. And so with this little practice, of you looking at your wheel and looking at the rings, I just want you to continue to explore that for yourself. And then that side list of, what are the things that are present for you and what do you want to work through to get into your center? I really just want you to have this real honest moment with yourself of how willing you are to heal those things and to repair those things. Everything's repairable. Everything. I learned that. I was a doula for 8 years, helping women through birth. Everything's repairable is something that I learned. And everything on that list is repairable, but it takes your willingness to do the work. So I really want you to get real and honest. And, we say we want our lives to change. And then we don't really show up to make the changes. So let's get real with ourselves. There's things that are painful and fucking hard, and they're impacting our lives in a negative way. And so how willing are you to show up and repair those for yourself, for your life, and then for the world around you? So if you're ready, join us for the practitioner program. I look forward to receiving your applications. Okay, and so the final part is this piece around our connection with the earth. So usually most women that are called to listen to these live calls and who join the practitioner program have had 2 experiences. One is either they just feel so good being in nature, right? It's just that's your sanctuary. That's the place that you go to find yourself, to attune, to connect, to de-stress. Yeah, I'm seeing you, Kinga, like, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. And it's because the frequency that you hold at the blueprint and the frequency of nature are very, very similar. Very similar. We are in an absolute symbiotic relationship with nature. We need nature, nature needs us, literally, for survival, right? With our breath, we take in oxygen from the trees, we breathe out carbon dioxide, they breathe it in. I mean, there's this, we need each other, let alone having gifts to share with one another. So either there's, the women who just like, oh, I go into nature, that's my sanctuary, that's where I find myself. And then there's also women who have already started communicating with plants. And this is a whole interesting thing that we go in way deep in the training, because there's so much a part of us that's like, am I making this up? Is this really happening? Did I just walk past the tree and she's like telling me something very important that I need to know, or reminding me, or did she just touch my heart? Like what something just happened here. So it's all very real. And just like I said at the beginning when we were doing our meditation, that everything you feel is welcome and valid here. This goes the same for everything that you experience in nature is true. It's absolutely true. And sometimes I think it's more true than all the other things that happen in our lives. And so I wanted to give you this practice that we go more deeply into in the practitioner training program, but it's a great way for you to bring yourself into a shared breath and a shared frequency with a specific flower or tree. I really want you to remember that, of course we look different than a tree or flower. We have this human body. But in truth, we're just an extension of Gaia. Literally from her soil, there lies the soles of our feet and our toes. So we're just literally an extension of Gaia walking around. And how do we want to do that? How do we want to be emissaries and ambassadoresses of Mother Earth, as daughters of the earth? And I know most of us want to do it in this very honoring, loving, respectful, generous way, just in the same way that Mother Earth is. So we have to attune ourselves to the frequency of the earth. And there's a couple different practices that I was thinking about teaching you. And I was having a hard time actually choosing. One of the things I really want you to remember is that as an extension of Gaia, literally your feet, her roots and her soils and her stones becoming the soles of your feet and what your physical body is made from. I also really want you to remember that you share the heartbeat, that you share the womb space of Gaia. Womb to womb, heartbeat to heartbeat. She fills you through those portals and those chalices inside your own body. And there's ways in which we can activate this and remember it that will be taught more in the program. But one of the ways that I'd love to share, and some of you probably already do something similarly to this, or maybe we can deepen this, or maybe it's new. So is to create an intention for yourself that you want to be in partnership or relationship with a specific flower or tree. So you first start with an intention, bringing your presence and awareness. And let's say you're about to go for a walk, or you're about to step into your backyard, or whatever you're doing, you create the intention. And as you walk or as you sit down, you wait for nature to respond to your request. Right? So sometimes we go for a walk in nature and we think, oh, I want to meet a plant, and oh, I totally think that flower is gorgeous. I'm gonna connect with that flower that I saw on my walk yesterday. But when you create an intention and a request of a prayer out to nature and you go for that walk, there's probably going to be a different plant that calls to you, who's like, wait, I really want to claim your attention for a while. And so you wait for that opening and you wait for that invitation. And it's, this is, so much of this is about some activating some of our priestess skills of opening our senses to everything. So we have our physical senses, the five senses, like really seeing and tasting and touching and feeling. And there's also spiritual senses that get awakened. So you go for this walk and everything's open and you're called to a plant. And you go and you sit with that plant. And you introduce yourself. Although the plant probably already knows who you are, there's a beauty of saying, hi, I'm Amaya. Oh my God, thank you for calling me. This is usually where I start crying, where I'm just like, this is the most epic moment. I've been called by a tree. And you sit and breathe. So you can offer something. Some people offer tobacco or a piece of your hair or a crystal or a rock or a song or a blessing. You offer something and you sit and breathe. Depending on what kind of plant it is, you may, like if it's a tree, you may want to put your hands at the base of the tree, or you may want to turn around and be back to back, breathing each other's essence. It's one of the most intimate experiences to have with nature. You're breathing each other's energies and you're awakening to each other. This is Tantra, right? This is really Tantra, is bringing your full presence and devotion to the one who has called you to sit with her or him. And that in that breath, as you're breathing, you're going to feel the undulation and the pulsation of your own breath growing and growing. You're going to feel your own energy field growing and growing. And you're attuning yourself and each other to one another. Yeah, oh, beautiful lichens. Yeah, that's a whole other far out energy. And so you breathe and you're attuning yourself. And from that place, communication is like a snap. Because now you're in the frequency, you're meeting that plant in its home, in its familiar energy. Your mind can't be making anything up because you're in the frequency of nature, of truth, of purity, of divinity, of wisdom, of brilliance, of presence. You're in it. And so one of the things that I like to do, and it just really depends on you and your personality and what resonates, is I just really like to open and let that plant or tree know that I'm just really open to receiving its communication. Some people start asking questions to invite the tree, like, oh, what do you love? Or what's your medicine? Or, all of these things. I actually just really like being with the tree and noticing what comes alive for myself, because that's part of its medicine. And then there's always something that happens for me. Sometimes I really hear visuals. Sometimes I see things. Most of the time I hear. That's how I receive, but everyone's different. Sometimes people see, great, extraordinary visions. You'll walk away with something. And I really want you to, like, if at any point you get skeptical or you're like, I'm making this up, or what, put your hand on the earth, put your hand against that tree or that flower, and come into the realness of the moment. You're absolutely not making anything up. There was something I just wanted to say. It disappeared. You can bring a journal. You can write things because again, you're in a different frequency. You're in a different space. There's a liminal kind of dreamy space, and so if you want to bring something to write, because it's very easy to forget what happens, and maybe you ask something of like, why this tree or flower brought you to him or her in this moment. Like there's something, right? So what are you needing to know? Oh yeah, kids, thank you, Maria. She's saying her daughter's so into this. She's been talking to plants her whole life. Yeah. This is, if you can do this plant attunement with a child, they'll just teach you, right? So any moment you feel skeptical, there's just like, children live in that world all the time. So, and then when you feel complete, whenever that is, so you may sit with a tree for 10 minutes or a flower, or you may sit there for 2 hours. Time sort of disappears when you're in that place. You want to take in everything about that flower or tree's existence and experience. It's all really important information for you to understand that being even more. And then you'll close in whatever way you want to close. Maybe that's, a song of gratitude or putting your heart against, it's being, whatever it is. But we want to make sure that there's an entrainment process that's happening where you're becoming one again with that plant, with the heartbeat, with the womb of Gaia. And so we want to make sure that there's a completion and a closing, and then, you do whatever you want to do. And whenever you're ready, you leave. Sometimes there's like a sadness about leaving because it's such a beautiful experience. You can go back to that plant anytime in this world or through shamanic realms. We talk about that and we teach you that a lot in the flower essence practitioner training of connecting to the spirit, which is truly what a flower essence is, but there's a way that you can also communicate with the spirit of a plant and understand it better. So it's a great blessing to set that prayer, be called by a tree, have communication, and then to complete. And then the resonance of that experience lives inside of you. It's exquisite. So there are so many ways to connect, but really dropping in, using your breath, turning off your mind for just a little time, and becoming one with the frequency, with the heartbeat, with the womb of Gaia through that specific tree or flower's resonance. So I hope that's helpful for you. And I'd love, so we have a private Facebook group for the Woman Rising Sisterhood. So, there's a private Facebook group for the practitioner training program, but the Woman Rising Sisterhood, if you're not part of that, and you want to be, you just ask to join, and we go through the members. And, I'd love to continue the conversation of all of this here. So if you go and you have this, experience with a plant, or you have a weird experience or whatever, that's a great place to come and share. And I remembered what I was going to say before. That's very important. When you sit with a plant and you have this kind of experience, and some of you might already be having it right now as we've been talking about the flowers and your own healing and, all of the practitioner program, I'm having it a little bit right now. There's an activation that happens where your DNA and your true spiritual code begins to turn on. And physically, you may feel a little, it's not totally a headache. It's a little bit of like a pulsing energy in your head. Sometimes you feel it in your belly. So you feel like a little wobbly, a little swirly. Sometimes you get a stomach ache. Sometimes it does feel like a headache. So I just want you to know that it's actually something being deeply remembered and turned on for your soul's path. Anytime you have that. But, I just want to mention that because that can happen when we're expanded in a space, or when the mission of our soul is being remembered. These are the physical things that can happen. It's just the truth of who you are being, it's actually a great reflection for you, like, oh yeah, okay, I'm on the right path. This is right. And just stay with the feeling. Drink a lot of water, put your feet on the earth, and just know that things are being turned on that have been wanting to get turned on. Okay, so I did pretty good with timing. I just want to know if there's any last questions or shares. So, of course, this can be about the practitioner program, but it can also just be a sharing that you have. So I'll just wait a moment. Most of us are not, we only have the video version of you, or we don't have the video, we have just the name. So I'll just wait a moment if any of you need to type anything, and any final sharings or questions about anything. And then just a reminder that we have our call tomorrow, Thursday, April 19th at 2:30 p.m. And that is how we take the me and bring it to the we. Really important. Maria, my daughter, is here with me. She's beaming. She says, hi, hello. Oh, let's see her. Hi. Thanks for being here. A beautiful maiden on the call with us. Thank you for your essence and joy and connection to flowers. Charlotte, so enjoyed this lifelong love and relationship with plants. Oh, great. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for each of you being here and making time, and deep thanks for sharing your wisdom today, Maya. Beautifully inspiring. Thank you, Julie. So excited to have you part of the program too. Kim, deep gratitude to you. Oh, thank you. I so hope that I get to journey with you in this program. I look forward to deepening our sisterhood and our connection and our healing. So go to the webpage. Here's the website. I mean, I think you've all probably seen it. Read through, talk to the plants, fill out your application, and then you and I will get on a phone call. So let's just take a moment to close our eyes for a second, just as we did in the beginning. And really presencing each woman here live, each woman listening to the recording, each woman who is really on this deep quest of self. Each woman here who is trusting and walking her path as a medicine woman, as a healer, as a facilitator of change, as a priestess, as a mama, as however you identify. We give thanks for the circle of wisdom support that's been holding us together these last 90 minutes. So we give great thanks for our guides and our teachers, and for Gaia, and for the plants and the trees. That none of this would be possible without them. We are nature. And so I bow to each of you, and maybe in this moment, as you bring your hands to prayer in front of your heart, giving yourself a blessing, a gratitude for who you are and how you show up in the world, and blessing your dreams and the visions that you hold and the songs in your heart, that they are coming true through your personal work, through your personal devotion, through your personal willingness. Your dreams are absolutely here now. And so it is, and so it always will be. Blessed be. And so we're just going to open our eyes, and I'm going to unmute you all, the ones who are remaining here, and we can all just put our voices in and say our goodbyes and give blessings. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and lots of love.
Thank you.
So much love to you.
Love you.
Yay, to plant medicine and fun and joy. Woo!